Hey guys, it's Dani. Today it is time for another Q&A episode. We skipped 1 month. Yes, last month was a little bit difficult for me. So this month we're actually gonna catch up. We're gonna have double the Q&As and double the orchid care for beginners. So let's get started. I will be answering the questions you guys left in the comment section of my videos. Gonna try to do about 10 per episode. So before we start, today's video together with this entire series is of course sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchids, from potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well, as I will show you in a future video. I do have some quote-unquote rare plants that are growing very well using rePotme products, so feel free to check them out at any time. I will link you to them down below in the description and also in the pinned comment. And I will also share with you the products that I personally really enjoy using. They're not the only ones, but I think these are my favorites and I think you will enjoy them as well. So with that said, let us start with the questions. First off, please excuse me if I kind of mess up your names. YouTube actually, in my homepage for the comments, it doesn't really show me your entire name, it just shows me your @ I don't know why it does that, but anyway. So first question from Wiley or Willie, where can I get those fabulous shelves, please? And this is on the video about me redoing a little bit the grow space. My shelves are all from IKEA. They're the Visho shelves. I did see a reply to this comment saying that these shelves have been discontinued by IKEA. Not in my area, they're still available in Cyprus for sale. So just check your local IKEA. They are actually super popular in the plant community. You will see many other YouTube channels that deal with plants, not only orchids, using these shelves. They are looking very nice. They're not the most, I will say, they're not the most suited for orchids because when they bloom sometimes they can get a little too tall for the shelf. But as you saw in that video, I just removed 2 of the shelves. So basically I increased a little bit the distance between the shelf and the light, and that works out just fine. It looks good in a home. I wanted shelves that didn't look like a storage room. I wanted something that will look good in a house, so I really do enjoy them. Not sponsored by IKEA, by the way. This video is sponsored by rePotme. But yeah, I purchased them myself a few years ago and I do really enjoy them. Alright, next question from Thomas. How and when would you separate a terminal spike Phalaenopsis with a basal keiki? I would just separate the keiki, I think that's what you meant, whenever the keiki has roots to sustain itself. The fact that the mother orchid has a terminal spike really doesn't affect anything, and the orchid can actually remain alive for quite a number of years, even if maybe the crown is completely compromised. So you can actually leave that keiki be as long as it takes until it produces maybe 3 roots of about 10 centimeters each. In this way, you make sure that it will be capable of absorbing nutrients and water on its own. If it doesn't have roots, it's really solely dependent on the mother plant. And if you separate it, you can actually lose it because you don't know when it's gonna start to produce roots. And without roots, it cannot get hydrated. So the decline can actually be very fast. It can desiccate and just die off within a matter of weeks. So wait it out if you plan on saving the keiki, which I think you would because the mother plant, and you should know this if you're a beginner, if you don't, Phalaenopsis orchids that have terminal spikes at some point will die off. Not immediately, they can last for a few years, but they will die off because they cannot grow any more leaves from the top. They cannot regenerate themselves anymore. So what they will do is invest energy in keikis. That's how the orchid will continue to linger on. The mother plant eventually most likely will die. Alrighty, next question from Herman. I just found out there are Cattleya seeds on sale. Should I try it or just buy a plant instead? Absolutely buy a plant. If you're looking for better deals or more affordable orchids, you can go ahead and buy seedlings, which are very tiny, very young orchids, but seeds do not. Unless it's a very reputable nursery which offers you like the seed pod and the seeds look like grains of dust. That's how orchid seeds look like, at least the Cattleya orchid seeds, and actually the vast majority of orchid seeds that I know of and that we can grow in our homes. Do not buy seeds on eBay, Amazon, whatever website that is not a reputable orchid nursery, because those are a scam. Those are seeds of everything else except orchids. Now, you should know something about orchid seeds. Even if you find absolutely legit orchid seeds, definitely research how you sow them and how you germinate them, because it's not easy. It really isn't. It's not like you put them on sphagnum moss or something and poof, you have seedlings. No, you need to have more or less laboratory conditions, sterile conditions. You have to prepare an agar medium that again is sterile for them to germinate in. It's not impossible. I don't mean to put you off, but I am realistic when I'm saying it's not easy to germinate them. Some people, me included, but we're not up for the challenge. I'm not at that point in my life. I want to have these orchids. So before you purchase, do make sure the seeds are legit, and also make sure you're up for the challenge of germinating them. Just Google how you germinate them. You'll find home growers actually having some success. It's just a little bit difficult, so see what it implies first. Next question. I do want to address this topic actually. Would you consider buying orchids from Taiwan? I am considering it every day. I want to purchase orchids from the USA first and foremost. You have so much variety there. I want to purchase orchids from Asia. I want to purchase orchids from Australia. I would purchase orchids from everywhere in the world, even if transport would take 1 month. But see, I can't do that. And chances are you cannot either because, not sadly for us, but it is absolutely justified. When purchasing orchids from different economic regions, let's put it like that, you would need to have inspections and phytosanitary certificates coming with those orchids. Your orchids will be checked at the border because shipping plants around the world, not the wisest of things. If you don't know what you're doing, you can introduce species that are invasive in some other territories. You can introduce pests that are not native and they will wreak havoc in certain particular territories. It's very delicate. So usually shipping of plants in different regions across seas and stuff is done very meticulously and is inspected by border police or authorities, let's call them like that. So what do I mean by economic region? If you are in the US and you want to buy from Taiwan, definitely not the same economic region, two different countries, right? Well, in the EU, we are all different countries, but we are within the same economic region, meaning shipping between our countries is a lot more easy. It is absolutely legal for me in Cyprus, where I live now, to ship something in Romania because we're both part of the European Union, because it's part of the perks we have in being in the same, union, I guess. So if you're in the European Union and you want to purchase from the European Union, you can absolutely do so. But if you're in the European Union and you want to purchase from UK, which is not part of the European Union anymore, there will be some issues. You will probably have to face some disposal of your parcel if there are undocumented plants. So I would be very careful with ordering from other territories. I don't know how strict each country is. Maybe some countries, don't even check. I don't know. But at least in the EU, it is forbidden. So I cannot purchase from outside the EU orchids or any other plant, which, sad because I want to have some plant. But I understand it. It's absolutely normal. It's absolutely legit. I don't want to pose any, threat to my environment because I don't know what I'm doing, right? I might be ordering a plant that I like and I'm like, well, I'm just going to put it in my garden because it's beautiful. And that plant makes some sort of seeds, because I'm thinking, oh, I keep it in my garden. I'm not letting it in the environment. Everything should be fine, right? Wrong. Maybe that plant makes seeds. Maybe some sparrows come and eat the seeds, or the wind that continuously blows in my garden takes the seeds away and spreads them in the fields, and I introduce a plant that takes over any other plant and suffocates any other plant in my area. I don't want to do that. I don't know what I'm introducing, right, in the garden. I don't know all plants. I don't know how they behave in my environment. So that's the logic behind these rules and regulations, and I do encourage everybody to follow them. Alrighty, next question from Catherine, and she's asking if she's using MSU time-release fertilizer or slow-release fertilizer. Do I still need MSU water-soluble fertilizer? Thanks again, so informative. Theoretically, you shouldn't. If you're using and replenishing the slow-release fertilizer, which as far as I've seen, the components, they're the same, you shouldn't use or have to use both of them because one or the other will ensure that your orchid will have all the nutrients it needs. So theoretically, that's the life. You put slow release fertilizer, refresh it after 9-12 months, and hey presto, you don't have to prepare fertilized water. I want to live that life. I personally do still use the MSU fertilizer until it's almost done. It's gonna be fun when it's done. But I still use it because my slow release fertilizer, which is an Osmocote one, it doesn't have calcium. And I don't know about the ratios. So I still use the MSU water soluble because it's a more complete diet. But yeah, theoretically, if you use one or the other, you shouldn't have to use the other. Let me know how it goes. If you're gonna stop using the water soluble one and only go for the time release one, let me know how it goes after a year or two. If you remember to comment back or leave me a comment after a year or so, or if you're already using it for a year, let us know. Next question from Sandy, how do you water your orchids outdoors? I'm interested in growing some outdoor orchids as well. I have a few dappled shade areas, I believe, on our patio. I just water them with the hose. See, my water is quite hard water, but I don't think it's that hard. Like, having a garden kind of answers some questions for me. So you know how Laura from Garden Answer says she has very hard water, and whenever she waters something, on the leaves of those plants, she has hard water stains because the water they have, it's so hard it leaves lime scale behind. Well, I'm guessing it's much harder than mine because I never have residue for my tap or the water that I use in my garden. Never, not even on the bark mulch that I have. So yes, it is hard, and yes, if I continuously use it with my orchids, I will see it just develop a little bit, just accumulate on top of my medium, but not that fast. So I'm taking a little bit of a risk, and I'm using only tap water outside, and I have slow release fertilizer, and I'm using full tap water with my orchids outside. I even spray all of them. I shower them pretty much. I still have them in the decorative pot, so I leave a little bit of water in the decorative pot, and it lasts me for a week about. So I just do that, and I don't use the MSU fertilizer on them because my tap water has a lot of calcium and magnesium. So I supplement whatever the Osmocote lacks, and that's how I water them, with the hose. It's the life. I just don't have enough shade for everybody. Next question from Robert. And this is a good question. I don't think I've ever addressed it. I just received 2 orchids from quite a distant USA nursery, and I was wondering, what should I do upon unboxing my orchids? That is actually a very, very good question because I think it can be different for each and every one of us, but I think one thing everybody should do after receiving the orchids is check if they are dry. Usually, if a nursery knows how to pack orchids, they will pack them dry. They will wait for them to dry, then ship them to customers, because it's very easy for orchids to suffer from rot on transport. And being packed wet seriously increases the risk of crown rot, leaf rot, stem rot, which is the worst. So, in an ideal world, theoretically, all orchids you receive are dry. So they need a drink of water. So before you do anything like repotting and anything, of course, after you inspect them, make sure they're okay, make sure you don't have to address anything with the nursery, you should water them. You don't have to soak them or anything, just run some water through the pot, and you can even put them on a tray or leave them in the decorative container. Let them 1-2 days, and then see if you want to repot or if you want to do something with them, because it's important, especially when you repot, that you do so with an already hydrated orchid. And I'll tell you why. I'm gonna make this short. Orchids have a unique ability to actually fight off drought by closing their stomata. Now, this drought can be achieved in 2 ways. One, not watering, obviously, and two, losing roots or cutting roots. Whenever we repot orchids, we risk losing a lot of roots. So the orchid will not have access to water so much, so it will go into preservation mode. At that point, it's a good idea to go into this mode already with some water reserves. The orchid can go into the preservation mode if it's bone dry as well. If you have it in the box on transport in high humidity or not so much open air, the orchid will be pretty much okay, will be fine. It will have some ambiental humidity even if it's dry, so it's gonna be nice and dandy. When you get it into your home and you repot it and you do all of these things, it's gonna be like, oh no, drought. But I don't have water reserves because I've been on transport dry for a week or whatever. We want the orchid to go into survival mode hydrated. So the orchid will not shut down when it feels it's desiccating. No, it will do so much sooner when it doesn't feel like the roots are absorbing anything. When the roots go dry, that's when it does this. Even if it's hydrated, it might not do fully closed, it will just slow down respiration. That's why it's not a good idea to keep orchids not watered for long periods of time. They will go into survival mode and just grow slower, that's all. But they will be fine. So it's better to have this happen. I don't know how to do that. It's better to have this happening, literally. This is what she's doing. This happening when already we have a lot of accumulated moisture, just so that we can survive longer until we produce new roots, just in case we mess up the entire root system. So that's what I wanted to address. Next question from Jane. Can you explain more about what is the difference between up-potting and repotting? Of course. So I don't know if it's correct of me to say repotting, up-potting. I don't know what the agreed upon lingo is. I don't know, but I kind of say stuff because I feel like it. So when I say up-potting, I mean removing the plant from its pot, not removing the medium, but putting it as it is into a bigger pot and just putting medium around it. So pretty much preserving the old medium like a plug. And I usually sometimes do this when the medium is still good and I don't want to stress the orchid and it's just not necessary to change the medium. I usually don't up-pot, but sometimes I do, very rare occasions. Repotting, in my lingo, is potting the orchid from its pot, removing all of that medium, which might be broken down. Usually that's why I remove the medium. Maybe remove some of the roots as well, and then putting it in a new pot or the same pot, but putting fresh new medium around it. So repotting. Up-potting kind of sounds like you're lifting it up, putting it in another pot and putting medium around it, and very easy, very fast doing a switch. Repotting is a much more elaborate activity. Next question from Jane as well. What is a terminal spike? A terminal spike is something we refer to with usually monopodial orchids or sometimes even sympodials that have leaves just like a Phalaenopsis, but typically we refer to Phalaenopsis in this instance. You know how Phalaenopsis produce flower spikes from the sides? Well, sometimes some anomalies happen that the flower spike comes right through the center of the orchid, right through the crown, and in many cases this completely damages the crown, so the orchid cannot grow from that upper part anymore, so it will produce a keiki most likely, either from the flower spike, either from somewhere below. Now we call it terminal. I think it's a Latin thing because in Romanian, a termina means to finish. So it's the end. We call it terminal because it's the last one. It finishes something, and I think it finishes the growth, theoretically. Now you will find this expression when talking about Cattleyas as well. We say Cattleyas have terminal spikes because it is the very end of the pseudobulb. But it doesn't mean the orchid will not grow anymore because Cattleyas are not monopodial. They don't grow from the same structure on top all the time. They produce new pseudobulbs. But it's still, you know, the scientific term that we use when we want to say that a flower spike is finishing off another structure. So in the case of Phalaenopsis, it's not something you want, but in the case of other orchids, it's normal. On a Cattleya, it's just supposed to tell you that there's nothing else gonna grow on top of that pseudobulb. It's the last finishing structure on that pseudobulb, which is absolutely normal. With Phalaenopsis, not something desirable. With Cattleya, absolutely normal. And the last question for today, but I will be filming more questions today. What kind of ants were they? I'm gonna explain to you if you're not up to date. Was it Tapinoma nigerimum? I lost my collection to them. Oh no, I looked it up. Were those carpenter ants? No, I had small ants. I don't know what type of variety of ants I had. So a little backstory, sorry, I'm all over the place. I had an ant infestation from the greenhouse for a few years on my orchids. And I'm not the type to like go ahead and eradicate ants. You see, in my mind, there are two ideas clashing. I grew up with my grandma saying, never harm ants or any other little animal in the garden because everybody has a role. My grandma was a woman wiser beyond her years, especially in regards to, okay, darn, what date is it? Okay, it makes sense. So my grandma educated me to respect and leave be all creatures that don't harm me. Now in my house, of course, am I gonna let a mosquito just be? No, there is a limit. But ants, you know, they were on the plants, they weren't doing anything to me personally, they weren't going into my food. Well, we moved here, and because this is like a bedroom in the house, yes, they were, I had a nightmare like 2 days ago or yesterday, I just remembered. I dreamt that there were ants on the hallway and I was like, my treatments didn't work. Oh my gosh. That's how much they obsessed or they distressed me. So they multiplied so much in the pods of my orchids and eating the happy sap, the sugars on my orchids, that they were starting to go in like other rooms of the house. Now these ants, the tiny ants we have in Cyprus, are very damaging. In Cyprus, usually when ants go into the house, they usually make tunnels in either the insulation, either the bricks and so on. They are strong enough to dig through. If you have the bad luck, which we did have at the last apartment, for them to be like inside the walls and inside the floors and everything, done. Your pantry, done. So I had to just have a warfare with the ants because I was split between I don't want to harm them, I kind of want to release them in the wild, but at the same time there's so many, I have to do something more drastic. So I've been battling them for a few years. That's the backstory. And they're just so hard to get rid of, in my opinion. And finally, with the downsizing and getting everybody and inspecting them and showering them, I finally got rid of the ants. And you're asking what type of ants they were? I don't know. Really don't know. But they weren't attacking my orchid. They weren't eating orchids. What they did was they facilitated mealybugs. They were carrying mealybugs around to all of my orchids because they were eating the mealybugs excretions. Yeah, they did that. So they weren't good for my orchids, but they weren't eating the orchids. I don't know what type of species you have mentioned here, and I'm not sure how they destroyed your collection. Let us know in a comment. What did they do? I don't think I had those ants. It is what it is. They have to stay outside, not in my pantry. But that's, you know, how I got rid of them. I'm sorry for this video being a little bit long, but yeah, I didn't talk to you in a long time. So I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. Next time I will be answering more of your questions. We're gonna have 2 Q&As this month, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, leave me your questions down below in the comment section. Thank you so much rePotme for sponsoring this video and this entire series and just putting up with me for the past 6 years. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!